You. All right, good afternoon. Welcome to the Airport Advisory Committee for Wednesday, November 6th. Why don't we start with our Pledge of Allegiance? Carl, would you be so kind as to lead us off?
Ready? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
And to, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Carl. All right, roll call. Gainey present, Carl present, Josh present, and Mr. Pemberton is excused for this evening. I don't believe we have any additions or deletions, but hearing any additions or deletions? All right. Approval of agenda. Would anyone move to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve it.
Carl, would you be so kind as to second that?
What's that?
The seconding of the agenda?
Yeah,
Okay.
I second the agenda.
Okay, so moved. Any presentations? Janelle, any presentations that you might have for us?
Nope.
We haven't any? All right. Approval of minutes. Approval of the May 1st minutes, our general meeting. Janelle, any notes that you'd like to review for that?
No.
And would someone be so...
Take a minute and review those notes.
Certainly.
One. Janelle?
Yeah?
I can't hear you.
Oh, I'll speak louder.
Okay.
I said take a minute and review the notes or the minutes from the May 1st, 2024 meeting.
I'll motion to approve the minutes.
Carl, would you be so kind as a second?
You need somebody to second
Please, Carl. Yeah, if you would be so kind.
it? I'll second it.
All right.
I was there.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? So carried. Approval of the moments. Moving on to the action items, discussion items. So we have two things to discuss tonight. 2025 T-Hangar Improvement Plan. Janelle, I had reached out to you. It looks like you've obviously been very busy this year with the T-Hangar painting. I know it's getting pretty close to being done, and it's looking much, much better. I think that's probably the first time that they've all seen paint since they were installed in the 90s and 70s. So looking phenomenal. I can say that as a resident, and Josh and Carl, I'm sure you would both agree.
Looking good.
Yep, great.
Now, they're gonna, the electrical boxes and that kind of stuff they're gonna paint that some kind of color or some doggone thing, because I noticed they're not painted.
The electrical boxes.
The electrical service boxes are not painted.
Those are actually owned by DTE, so we really don't have the authority to really paint all of the electrical boxes
Why?
because it's DTE's property. So there are some electrical boxes.
They're the electrical boxes that are the ones that distribute the power to the different hangars. They're not DT boxes. I'm just talking about the normal electrical feed boxes on the hangars, especially B and what's another one? I see that's not painted.
The painting's not done yet.
Okay.
So I guess I kind of wanted to, maybe have a discussion here with you, Janelle, and with the team here. What we envisioned for 2025 T-Hangar improvements. I know, obviously, we've discussed things such as needing improvement to seals, waterproofing, etc. Maybe Janelle, if you wouldn't mind sharing with us, your thoughts and plans, and we can springboard off of there.
I think that I'm curious to know what your thoughts and plans are with that. I can tell you that. So we put $100,000 in painting this year.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, along with the painting, as far as the improvements have gone, that required new signs, like speed limit signs, no parking signs that we all had to acquire for that. Any minor repairs on some of the doors that we've done that has been completed through that. We will be getting new lighting on the side of the T hangars as well. So as far as the budget for next year, I think it's going to be on an as-needed basis, so as it's been in the past. So I think my question is to you, Jack, is what are your concerns?
I would say, again, a general improvement of the condition of the T hangars, especially things that are wear items. So I think many hangars need new seals on the doors, is something that's been expressed by many members. As you recall from some of our previous study sessions, right, we discussed maybe if there was an audit possible of the condition of all the T hangars and the seals. I don't know if you have any numbers at hand that might say, hey, how many seals might need to be replaced. That's something that I kind of, again, come back to.
Is that the main issue, the seals, or I always thought it was a concrete issue?
Well, that's
on a
another
case
issue.
by
So,
case.
no, not to exclude that.
They
So
used to be
concrete
done on a
improve.
failure boat basis because they fail, and then because what it is a piece of rubber that's looped, so it kind of can have all the different elevations on the slab. So, but like you said before, many times, if they've got a problem with their door sealing, let
Yeah,
you know.
and
We've got the probably the stuff is still in stock for putting those on there.
Josh is right. Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't mean to say that seals is the only thing. That's making that as an example since Janelle, you asked. Many places, spalling, extreme spalling of concrete, things of that nature, that needs addressing.
By the way, that repair where the spalled concrete was looks great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth saying too that the paint is a major
Yeah.
expense and major improvement too.
Agreed.
So like,
So I think that when we're talking about these major budgetary requirements that are needed around here is that, we only generate so much revenue. And, I mean, we have to be very mindful on projects that we pick in order to kind of spread out the budget that we are working with.
Oh, absolutely
So
agree.
I think that we need to be very mindful with 640 acres of land, and I mean, we have a lot of stuff, so
Are you doing good on your maintenance budgets?
I'm doing great overall, but I think what we need to be mindful of is that we have to be really mindful that the maintenance of these T hangars over the past 3 years has, what do I want to say, is been very well managed. I mean,
There's certainly been an
it's been
improvement,
very
yes.
well managed. I mean, we just replaced a $7,000 motor for Kevin Pentney, unexpected, right?
oh, is that how much one motor costs?
One motor is about $7,000. So we have to be very mindful and understand like what the expenses are to do these types of repairs, right? So we probably need to look at how we're going to be generating more revenue versus how we're going to be spending our money.
Yeah, looks good.
Are you guys gonna be able to increase hangar rents at all? Because they are definitely improved over the last couple of years.
I mean, it's definitely something that we should be considering is increasing those. I did increase them a few years back, but I mean, things are not getting less expensive, as we all know.
Not even
No.
close. Yeah. No,
Yeah,
that's the point.
so, but, I mean, it's something that I'm sure that the commission and I will be looking at, increasing rents.
I mean, and certainly that's a conversation worth having. But again, kind of comes back to the, are there any plans from the airport leadership of things that you're looking to address? And that's where, again, as Josh said, spalling concrete or improvement of the electrical or addressing seals, leaks, et cetera.
And
Just
I-
asking you if there's anything, hey, that you've addressed a plan, all seals will be replaced or all roofs will be coated, as an example.
We're looking at that on a daily basis, me and my maintenance crew.
Certainly, again, yeah, I would agree, right, if an issue pops up, going after that, but, kind of talking about overall, somewhat in the same scope of the painting, right, where that's not just painting one hangar, two hangar, but again, an overall improvement in general condition improvement.
We are looking at that every day, Jack, every day. We look
Okay.
at overall maintenance of all of the airport, yes.
Understood. So I guess then, what would you then describe the 2025 T hangar improvement plan as?
I think we just covered that.
Well, we
I mean, we're
mentioned
gonna have
off
to-
some
we're gonna
items.
have to address-
I don't know if I entirely understand if there's a,
Well, I
a
think
plan
that-
or just, kind of as on an as-needed basis, or?
Right now, it's going to be an as-needed basis when things come up for the future plan. Like I just said, we put in $100,000+, which is a big movement forward.
No disagreement here.
Yeah, a big movement forward. So if you guys would like a more specified detail planned, I mean, I guess I'm trying to understand what you're looking for
I'm
here.
personally not aware of any major issues. I think that I know that there are a bunch of small things, and I understand, addressing them as needed. I also think it's probably challenging to, go and replace, let's say, all concrete or something like that. I don't think that we could justify that. So I think the plan of as needed might make sense for the next year, but with the caveat that I'm not very familiar with each hangar's condition. So
Right, and again, I'm not
Well,
saying that.
I think there's a caveat of the overall expenses that are at the airport. And I feel that there is, actually, I'm just going to say this because I feel that that's something we need to look at as an airport advisory committee, is this is not just one expenditure. I mean, we're here tonight to talk about our airport capital improvement plan,
Certainly.
and $82,000 for the next budget, and that are requirements from the FAA in order to make sure that we're doing, certain improvements on the airport as well. So I think that we need to be mindful moving forward and how to spend our monies. And, I guess we just put in a lot of money in the T hangar. So now we need to probably focus our revenues someplace else.
Right, and again, I guess that's
I
kind of
guess I'm trying to figure out where you're going with this.
not going anywhere, just trying to understand, is there a plan? Is there anything new being added? Is it, again, just kind of as issues come up to continue to address them? Just trying to understand, hey, you're seeing the bigger picture. What is that plan?
Okay, so the plan is we go in, we lube all the cables, the pulley systems, all of that on a regular basis. I would have to say that those are done annually. So outside of general maintenance and making sure that the pulleys cables are lubed and things are addressed and locks have been fixed. I mean, if there is one issue, and I've said this before, if there is a broken pulley, cable, something that's wrong, a limit switch on the T hangars, I think that we're going to be addressing those on an as-needed basis.
yeah, I do agree with that. I mean, I look at it like we manage a ton of real estate, and I can't just go in and replace stuff because it looks like it might be bad sometime.
Right.
Yeah,
of course, if
exactly.
your garbage disposal breaks, we're going to replace it. That's what you're saying. And
Exactly.
I think it's reasonable, but again, unless there's any specific issues.
No, and that's like again, that was kind of the idea here is, again, not to go through and carte blanche everything just because, it's old. It's, again, just trying to understand, hey, is there anything coming in 2025? As an example, we're going to overhaul, and I'm making this up, overhaul all the motors or replace all the seals. That's,
Or the
again, I keep coming
concrete.
back to that because that's the only, issue from neighbors and other folks at the airport that kind of comes up. And you've been very clear that, hey, if folks have issues, right, they should seek you out and that your team will address it. Just, again, trying to understand if there was another campaign, just as though there was painting this year.
Well, I think that the campaign is that, yes, call me when something's broken. We will come out and address it. And I'm going to tell you that it's done very quickly. And as a result of people saying, hey, my cables seem like they need to be lubed or whatever, the guys will go in and, when they're in there, they're going to do, an inspection on that.
I do know that for Hangar 1 here as well, I hope it's fixed because they did a bunch of concrete work over the summer that hopefully will resolve the snow and ice problem. That's been
Correct.
the main problem with that door the last few
Correct.
years. So it looks good. We'll see how it goes. And yeah, I like it. It's a little concerning that a motor is $7,000 per door. Was that a unique situation, or is that every motor?
No, I think it's going to be, there's 3 or 4 different types of motors. So that motor was, I think, one of the older motors, but I don't know. But I mean, if you're looking at ripping them down and replacing all new T hangers, I mean, you're looking at whatever the cost of construction is right now. So you're looking at probably, you know, for the smaller row, it was probably close to $1 million to tear them down and rebuild them. So that's not a feasible option. I mean, are there other safety concerns, Jack, that you're
None that
you
I'm
know,
aware.
wanting
No,
to
certainly
address
none
here?
that I'm aware of. Again, just the kind of bring it back. Just since 2024 was the year of painting, just saying, hey, if 2025 is the year of everybody gets a new skylight, joking, or a new motor or something of that nature. So
I mean, as far as feasibility goes, I just don't see that how we can have a plan that we're going to be replacing either all motors or all concrete or
nor would you,
or
but-
seals for that matter, right? I mean, I understand. And did we go in and, you know, to answer the question about an audit and going into every hangar while they were being painted? We've been in all of those hangars. And is it going to be feasible to go in and pick apart every single hangar and fix it? No. It's just not. I just don't see that happening.
Well, again, I think the paint looks great, and I think it's great that we got one large ticket item off the books that you really can't piecemeal that. So
No.
I think great job with that.
I don't have any other thoughts or comments on that. Josh, Carl, Janelle?
No, I'm good.
All right. And then if nothing else, why don't we move on to our second action item, Airport Capital Improvement Plan. Janelle, I had reached out to you this one. I know this is something that you're working on, you and your team, and with the Airport and Commerce Park Commission, and just kind of hoping that you can maybe bring us up to speed and see how that we can work with you on this. So maybe if you can take a few minutes, please, and kind of help educate us on what it is and what your objectives are. And
So as I've, been talking about, if you guys have been watching the Airport Commerce Park Commission meetings, my upcoming MAP meeting is coming up in the next couple of weeks. So in front of you, you're going to see our 5-year airport capital improvement plan for years 25 to 29. And this has been determined that moving forward that I actually just submitted our draft yesterday. So this is the plan moving forward as far as the ACIP goes for the next coming years. If you look at the map in front of you, and you can see how this is actually, hold on. Would recommend that. All right, so let me just show you something really quickly. So this is what I presented to the Airport Commerce Park Commission during our October meeting. So this is the ACIP that was presented to MDOT yesterday, actually. And this is actually determined by a number of factors. If you can see down at the bottom, one of the main factors is actually funding. Okay? We'll go back. One of the main factors is actually funding, and how funding is distributed through the state of Michigan and through the FAA, right? So there's all different types of buckets and where your funding comes from. And we get $150,000 for our MPE funding, and then we get $159,000 you can see on the display for either our bill funding. This year, we need to make a decision pretty quickly so we don't lose the bill funding for 2022 because it will expire. So through research and figuring out what our best option was moving forward with even getting it to be approved from the state of Michigan and the regulatory and how funding is distributed through all the different airports, through all the different NIPIAS airports, really. And so the state of Michigan only has probably about $6,000 that is distributed. So keep in mind, when we go and ask for money from the state, regardless of whether or not it's what is going to be applied for your state funding, or if you have to go out for discretionary funding, which is taking it up another level and actually going to the FAA. So you have to be very careful, because if you look like, I guess you have to be very mindful that they only have $6 million within the state, right? If you're going to stay within the block grant state. If you're going to go out, then you need to ask for discretionary funding. So there's different buckets. So last year we took out $5 million for a taxiway project, right?
Right.
So we need to be mindful when we're going to ask the state for more money and how we're going to navigate through that system. So this year, in talking to my consultants and other stakeholders, it was determined that we are going to move forward on that taxiway A2 construction project, which is going to be roughly about $82,000 out of pocket for the year 2025.
Does that relate to, you mentioned we have some 2022 funding that needs to
That
not
would
expire? Is
that
tied?
would be tied into that funding. So if you look at this and you look at what they call a PCI report. So when you go and you sit down with the state, which I'll be doing, like I said, in a couple of weeks, they're going to look at this because they're going to make decisions on what the actual pavement condition index is. And if you look here, you can see that connector, that A2 connector that goes up to Charlie, which is really the main stretch to 422. They're going to want to see that replaced more than likely from, if you look at the 2026 projects, which is the taxiway C, the joint ceiling and design and construction for that. Okay? So they're going to want to see these things be done before even beginning. Well, so this puts us in a position actually to begin planning for 1735.
Is that red all the one project, the Alpha 2, and then that looks like the hangar
It
row
is.
there?
It would be, but we don't know how far we're going to get with what we're budgeting for. Because, like I said, we have to share $6 million with, however many other airports, right? And GA airports, including the 139. So
Right, essentially, here's $6 million. You don't know it's Rosie. You'll get $1 or $6 million or somewhere in
Correct.
between. Okay.
Correct. So it's just when we're making these plans, when we're talking about, and I'm just going to bring this up, right? The T-Hangar maintenance.
Right.
We're looking at potentially $90,000 out of pocket that we don't want to take a bond out for. We want to be able to use that money in order to put towards another major project.
Right, and I know that's something that you've been very diligent on, right? Being ready so that way when these come along or you have your matching, right, you're ready to go, instead of having to take your time or lose the opportunity. That way, again, Grozie's always been very ready to go when those opportunities come.
Well, when they're looking at these projects, they want projects that are shovel ready.
Right.
You don't want to get into a situation. And the other reason we picked this was because this design, as far as if you're looking here, you'll notice that it's broken down into a design and a construction, which when you're going for funding, these are treated differently, right? It's two different projects.
Based on the type of project, you mean? How
No,
it's
just
prioritized,
saying
or?
like it's two different projects as
So if
far
you
as
don't have
as far as your funding goes.
Design
even.
done, you're probably not going to get funding.
No, you will, but you'll get it. But it's just they like it broken down in two different projects. But the design for the A2 was kind of already done when the taxiway Alpha was done.
Okay. So I guess.
So we might be able to save some money on that.
So what you're saying right now is, okay, these aren't like, say, here's your engineering blueprints, like when we reviewed, say, the taxiway Alpha, right, and as a team we got it wider, et cetera. What you're saying is right now you're kind of laying like, here's the pot of projects that Janelle has, and you're saying which ones, this is priority number 1, 2, and 3, as you're kind of going through and asking for that. You don't necessarily have, say, blueprints ready for these. It's here's my 10 projects.
That's
and
correct.
Okay.
That's correct. That's correct. I mean, you know, I mean, that's
Right.
part of the planning and designing in order to go to the construction phase, but you can't go into the design until you have like approval from the people that are giving you the money in order to move forward on it, right? So it's just, and if you look at, you know, some of the fundings that, I mean, even if we're looking into the future, the total, I mean, we're looking at $400,000+ for the reconstruction of 1/7.
Right.
So, I mean, you know, you're looking at revenue sources, expenditures, and these are the things that we need to keep in mind, right?
1735 reconstruction, looking at roughly 2028, it says, is that a funding thing or is that just the timeline it takes to get a project like that ready?
It's kind of both. It's both, you know? It's both. I mean, it's a timeline and it's a funding thing. You know, we're moving in the right direction, and that's the important part with that.
Yeah, I'm glad to see it on there. And only other question I have on the whole thing, these all are basically surface reconstruction. I'm sure that's a huge part of the expense. Are there any other items, or is it in a separate category, maybe things like lighting or PAPI or any other issues like that that are priority to get fixed?
Well, I mean, those are different kind of pots of money. I mean, the PAPI.
Okay, so it's just not on this.
The PAPI is not gonna. You're not gonna get funding for the PAPIs to be repaired.
Right.
You
I didn't
know?
know if there was if it was a full replacement, if that was something that could
No,
factor
no,
in
the
here.
PAPIs aren't broken. The PAPIs have trees.
Well, I guess
So-
that kind of goes to your same point too, attacking the trees versus.
Or I don't know what the
So, I
major
mean, you're-
things
you're
are.
looking
But this
at-
is all surface reconstruction.
Well, no, the Alpha 2 is a full reconstruction. What do you mean surface
Well,
reconstruction?
I mean, what I'm looking at, everything I see on this list is all concrete or surface. Yeah, surface. It's not necessarily. Hey, we're gonna also look at this lighting issue. Or I'm making these up, but
No,
whatever
because-
maintenance on the airport is not all on here.
No, because they don't always fund those programs. So a lot of those are going to be out of the local share, like meaning like the sponsor will be paying for it. So I mean, if we're looking at, you know, just to not totally get off on topic, but the trees on Round Island, which are causing the PAPI issue, we already had funding to remove those trees. It was our obligation to continue to remove those trees. But getting those trees removed on an island is not the easiest task, and you have to budget for it. It's not going to be cheap.
Is that all? Was that the winter? It needs to happen in the winter project as well, or?
It does, but then how do you get out there? You know, I mean, that's a difficult project, you know, all in of itself.
So I guess, Janelle, thank you for explaining that. You know, kind of like, again, this is sort of like the roadmap of where you're going of as you're getting your funding, what's the most important. Is there anything that you need from the Airport Advisory Committee? Like, hey, would you review this? Or, you know, in terms of prioritization, et cetera. And I guess I would ask the same thing too of, hey, when you start getting those blueprints, if we can review those. I think working together, we were pretty successful to get the wider taxiway on Alpha. But is there anything that you need from the Airport Advisory Committee in terms of feedback or review?
Not really at this time. I mean, I think that those designs that we had for Taxiway Alpha, I think is what we're gonna want to probably look at is those blueprints, which are kind of already there, right? I mean, so if we're looking at that A2 connector for the reconstruction, you know, that's not approved yet. We're just trying to get it approved. We'll be lighting and grading drainage, and then obviously it'll be asphalt, would be my guess.
Okay.
And the plan is to keep everything that 35-foot width. I remember on Taxiway Alpha that was the issue. They originally designed it, I think, at 25, and we were able to get it
Correct.
up to 35.
Correct.
Which is critical, I think, for anything large taxing in.
That is correct.
Yep, and I guess one other comment. I know originally kind of that intersection there, I know when you first started scoping out the whole taxiway Charlie, et cetera, rebuild, it was kind of supposed to be in scope, right? But some of that funding eroded inflation costs, et cetera. Right?
What intersection?
Yeah,
is
what
that?
are we
The
talking
Alpha
about?
Charlie intersection. Now, I thought I remember you saying like originally it was supposed to be in scope, but due to the cost of materials, et cetera, wasn't able to be entirely
That-
included.
That A2 was the
Yeah.
one that was supposed to be included.
Because the intersection got completed, right? It's just
No, but I mean like all the way out.
Intersection,
Yeah.
but you're talking from the apron to Charlie, that red
Yeah.
area, which is that A2 connector.
Right.
And that was the original scope of
That's what I
work?
mean.
Correct.
It kind of, due to inflation and cost of materials, the scope kind of had to get a little bit narrower.
Correct.
Okay.
Well, it also was like what we were approved for $5.5 million of funding when there was only a $600 million
Right.
or $6 million.
So I guess that's what I kind of
Budget.
mean. It's kind of been on your radar, but unfortunately, it just wound up being a little too far out of grasp.
Yeah. I mean, and so, back to Josh's question about whether or not even all of that pavement that is south of Hangar Road Charlie, I don't even know if we're going to have enough money and funding to do that, right? So
that's where you've done a couple patches recently, right? With the
we had to, like that area right there was like literally like crumbling every time we turned around.
Right.
It's really more of a safety concern in that area that I did do. So if we want to compare like apples to apples, if you're looking at, crumbling concrete in a T hanger, I mean, there's not a moving engine that, all you're
Right.
doing is pulling
Yeah, I
it
agree.
out, right? So
sure.
I think we need to be mindful of those repairs.
Oh,
And
certainly.
so I appreciate you bringing it up. And I like these conversations because I think it adds, a little bit more understanding of how our full budget looks like and some of these requirements, right?
Yeah. And I can
We're
certainly.
moving forward.
Yeah, I mean, again, probably, I mean, you look at that connector there, probably what, 95% of our traffic probably goes through that intersection here. Occasionally, maybe a few might go through the east, what is that, Alpha 3 connector, et cetera. But I would, and I'm sure you have numbers, but I would easily say probably 95% of that traffic goes through that. It's a chokehold, and I can see why that would be so high priority for you.
Correct.
Where on the page 1 that I'm looking at with all of the different projects, which one corresponds with the yellow I see around all the T hangers?
None of them.
Okay. So what is the yellow indicating on this map here? It seems like a
Well,
reconstruction.
it's it's going to be reconstruction. at
But it's
some
not
point.
timelined yet in for that one.
I think if there's the key. It's
No,
saying the
and
condition.
and honestly, go ahead, Jack.
Oh, no, I was about to say, I see there in the, there's a legend there that's saying what condition it is, what the ranking is. So the red is like a 9 out of 100. Yeah.
But you also look at prioritization, right? I mean,
How much traffic is
how
on
much
that?
traffic is really
I see
in
now.
those areas, and can you, just kind of maintain it for what it is for right now, and then it comes down to budgeting. It comes down to funding.
I
and I can-
understand it better now.
Yeah, and I can, if the state is going to be looking at options of funding, they're going to want that A2 connector done before the concrete that's around your apron.
I see. I get it now.
Yep. And so then, and it's interesting because what you don't see is that if you look at, even just maintaining taxiway Charlie, which is going to be that crack and joint seal, right? Which, we have looking at for the year 26, right? And so that's another $500,000 of funding that we're going to be asking for in the year after. But that in order to maintain that taxiway Charlie, it's something that needs to be addressed,
Right.
right? And unfortunately, I can't do both of those projects at once from a timing standpoint. So we're going to be playing a little bit of catch up.
Have you had any new comments on the taxiway connection to 2-2. Anybody complain or glad or happy with way it turned out?
Are you talking on Alpha?
Yeah.
I asked these two in the
That
room.
dog leg and everything else, everybody's happy with. I see
Dog
most of them
legs.
now are doing their run-ups on the main apron.
It took one taxi to get used to.
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
like going to
it's-
a new airport and then it's secondhand.
We're not busy enough that
Yeah.
that in my opinion, we missed the run-up pad. I block the whole thing anyways, and I run up right there, scare some llamas, so that's it.
There's
Oh, yeah, you just do it right there.
Yeah, I mean, I can't run up on the ramp anyways. I'd have to.
No, it's probably
Or
better.
so.
I
yeah.
would, it's probably better down there.
Yeah, so it's.
the school seems to have adapted using the big apron in front of hangar, 1
Yeah,
and 2.
I don't
So
think it's a.
I don't
an
think
issue.
it, yeah. Like I said, and again, just okay having this, dog leg there. You taxi one time, and I think you're used to it. So, I don't have any other questions or comments on the airport capital improvement plan. I don't know, Josh or Carl.
No, I'm glad to see 1735 is on there. It's always better if it was sooner, but it's on there, and that's a lot better than it could be. So
Yeah, I mean, it's all moving forward.
Well, we got a new commander-in-chief, so maybe we'll get this done sooner.
maybe.
We'll see how much money we get for little J airports.
So moving on, we have no committee member reports. Public comment. I see no public with us for comments. I'll just kind of say, Janelle, anything else that we've missed?
Mm-mm.
And either Josh or Carl, would one of you motion to adjourn?
I'll motion to adjourn.
Second it.
So? Aye. And opposed? All right,
Think so.
moved. All right, thank you, Janelle.
Yeah.